Commissioner Batty, Commissioner Miller, Commissioner Keen,
Here.
Commissioner Brink,
Here.
and Chair Gerard.
Here. We ask you if you're able to please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair is looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I would make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Chair is looking for a motion to approve the planning commission, try that again. Approve the planning commission meeting minutes from July 28, 2021.
Move to approve minutes.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Our next order of business is 8255 Scandia Trail. It's a variance permit application. We're going to hold a public hearing to consider the permit application. The way this will work this evening, there's 4 public hearings tonight, so we'll have an individual one for each of the 4 items. And it'll start by, the city will explain the application as they understand it. Commissioners will ask any questions, clarifications, et cetera. We will then ask the applicant if they would like to add anything. And after that, we will then hold public hearing, and we will close the public hearing, and then we'll come back for a decision by the planning commissioners. So Donovan, I trust you're presenting?
Yes, sir. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, I'd like to present the septic variance for 8255 Scandia Trail. This is applied for by Matthew and Amanda Deitner. Matt is joining us remotely to represent the application. Karen, can I get video, please?
Yep, I'm just making sure that everybody can hear. I was getting some chat that they couldn't hear it. Sounds like they can.
Okay. The property is located on Highway 97, Scandia Trail, just across the road from Brock's Pit. And it is a relatively 0.8 acre property. And you'll see that the much of the site actually, is within, much of the property is within MnDOT right-of-way. So it's a very confined site. The county's indicated that the septic system is substandard and needs to be replaced. Discovery of kind of inquiry of the property showed really very limited options on where this replacement septic field can be. As you can see, according to the narrative submitted, they plan to reuse some of the existing tanks and then also place the box mound system here. The variance is to place it 0 feet from the property line, just adjacent to the property line, and also not in that MnDOT right-of-way. Also the septic design report that was in the packet also indicates that the cesspool down here, an old one, was not properly abandoned. As part of the work would be to properly seal that. And I did receive some comment from an adjacent property owner. She has a concern regarding how close this was to the property line and potential impact on her water source downhill. And you know, the application seems to indicate really this is about the only acceptable place with topography challenging, you know, steep slopes challenging any other location. And so, and, you know, and the full septic design was submitted. Washington County does do the septic permit approvals, but if there's a variance situation, the city does process those. The findings of fact do seem to indicate there's a practical difficulty regarding the lot size, site topography, an area currently occupied by the failed drain field. As reasons to locate in this place. And, you know, of course, the mound, the current system was not installed by the current owner, nor were the current property lines defined by the current owner. So I believe it is not a self-created requirement for or desire for this variance. And staff does believe that the variance is consistent with spirit and intent of the zoning code and will not result in any negative impacts to the applicant's property, the wetlands or neighboring properties. I should note that on the south side, there, it would be in conflict with the 75-foot wetland setback, if it was on that more southeast part of the property. So staff recommendation is to approve the requested variance to locate the septic system with the requested zero setback from that western property line, and with 3 staff recommendations involving proper permitting. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions from the Planning Commission.
Commissioners, any questions? Susan?
Donovan, is MnDOT okay with this?
I did send it to them for their review, and I did not receive an answer. It is outside the the defined right-of-way.
Okay. And Washington County has not made a decision on this one yet, correct?
No, I mean, they won't approve the a septic system unless it's, you know, this variance is approved.
Okay. Donovan, number D on your findings of fact is that the granting of the variance will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious to other land or improvements in the vicinity. I took a look at the designer's report, and I took a look at where their construction is, and I've walked the property. There is no way that they can do that construction without adversely affecting the trees on the neighbor's property. And it's my expectation that at least a few of those trees, as a result of the construction, will die. Those are big trees that are going to be expensive to handle, to take down and to remove. Has it been your experience that as part, if we were to approve this, that as part of our requirements, that the individual putting in the septic system would be responsible for the cost of dealing with those trees when they die as a result of this construction?
I think it would be a proper condition for the Planning Commission to place, if it was some sort of construction easement or condition that if the construction does impact the neighboring property, some compensation should be owed to the neighboring property owner.
Trees are in good shape right now. I mean, even with you know, this year, and they're large and they're very healthy. It's just within the next 3 to 5 years, I don't see at least some of them surviving with the kind of construction that they're going to have to do here.
Even with, I mean, it appears that the existing drain field is pretty much in a similar location, but you're saying that the trees have grown over that over time?
Where they're going to be putting that in right up against the lot line, they are going to be cutting significant percentage of tree roots, of the roots supporting those trees. Okay. That's all questions I have for Donovan.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, I had a few too. So Donovan, you're trying to say there's no other place on that property to put that septic system? I mean, move sheds? I mean, there's no reason why you can't move some sheds. That little turnaround in the front yard, they could take that out and move that to the other side, you know, towards where it says existing house. That would get them back off that property line a little bit. But yeah, one of my concerns was the neighboring trees. When they dig this up, you got disruption of soil, compaction, all the heavy equipment running around out of there, compacting all the soil, removal of the root systems. These are big, big trees. And when they die, that's gonna be the neighbor's expense, because it's not their trees. They've got a brand-new sewer system on their property, and 0 feet from the property line. I'm not for that. But I think they can move things around a little bit here.
Commissioners, other questions, comments? Thank you. Would the applicant wish to address the application tonight? And if so, please just state your name and address for the record. Bear with us with the technology.
Yep,
It's
sorry.
a little new to
See if
get
this
them
works.
both ways
This is
here.
Matt Deitner of 8255 Scandal North. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you, Matt.
Property is one that
Bear with us with the technology.
is under contract to sell.
Little new to get 'em
Just to address
both
the
ways
last
here.
comment. There, after walking the property
can
with
hear
my
you now.
septic designer, we did conclude that there was no other place to put it on the property that would not be cost prohibitive to do that. We looked after walking with my septic. The other side of the property we looked at. We did conclude that there was no other place to
interrupt
put
him?
it on the property that it would be cost prohibitive to do to put that anywhere else on the property. That's the only I have to add to the discussion.
I'm going to ask you to, I apologize, we have a little technical issue here, and I think we got to clear it up now, so could you?
The city page is on mute again.
I'm sorry?
Go
It's
ahead.
We're on mute, I guess.
Nope, go ahead.
Not anymore.
Could you restate what you told us, that we had a little audio problem here?
Yes, sir. From walking the property with my septic designer, we did conclude that it would be cost prohibitive to put that system anywhere else on the property other than over where the existing drain field is. That includes moving into the other side of the property. That includes the turnaround. The other issue is the setback from the well. Since we're on such a tight lot, we're also needing to put a new well in, and because of the required setback, which is feet, that really puts things on a tight I'm not finding the right word, but the whole property is really tight. It's hard to have that 50-foot setback without this variance.
Thank you. Applicants, or commissioners, any questions for the applicant?
Sir, I'm guessing that you heard my concerns about the trees and the cost of those trees being removed when they die because of the construction. Would you have an objection, or would it change your application if we were to include as a condition of the variance that you be responsible for the cost of those trees if they die within the 5 years after construction?
Ma'am, as I stated prior, I have a contract to sell the home, and so this work is actually going to be done afterwards, so it would make it complicated if that was a condition of the variance. However, if those are your conditions, then I don't like that, but I would be willing to do that if that's what's necessary.
Commissioners, other questions?
I do agree, Donovan, that they, where the existing drain field is right now, it doesn't seem to have an impact on those trees. And so I don't quite understand the objection. But again, I'd be willing to have that condition in there if that was necessary.
Sir, it's not the drain field itself that would be the problem. It is the construction of the new mound, quite frankly, when you dig to set either, I don't know if you're going to use ties or you're going to use block to set the base of that mound and to set the tanks in there. When you do that excavation, you're going to cut a significant amount of the tree roots there and not only weaken them from one entire direction, but then you're also going, those are large trees, and the viability of those trees is going to be a challenge. It's not
I see.
it's not the system, it's the fact that you're going to be cutting half the roots of several of those trees.
I see the objection now. Thank you.
I'm sorry, did you say you were selling this property shortly after if you were to go through with this?
Yes, the property is under contract to be sold.
Okay, thank you.
Mike?
So when you sell this property, now it's gonna be someone else's issue? In 5-6 years from now, when those huge trees in the neighboring yards, they die out, who's gonna pay for them? Who's gonna pay for all that cleanup, because you're talking about probably, over $1,000 a tree. And that's not even removal. And then my second question is, why can't you just take out your old existing system and put your new system in the same location?
You build a mound over it.
I'll address the second comment first. It is going on top of the same location of the old system. The old drain field is being taken out. The box system is being built on top of the old location of that drain field.
But you're moving the box
To address
right to the property line, correct?
Correct, and that's actually pretty similar to where the drain field is currently.
But the current one is not on the property line, correct?
The drain field is not the box. In other words, the pipe structures underneath, they weren't, it didn't have a mound. It had a regular drain field.
Correct. I'm not exactly positive. I'm not 100% positive where that current drain field is right now, but it is currently pretty close to that property line, if not right on it.
You can see it's kind of gray. There's gray lines in there, mistakes.
Yep.
Other comments, questions?
My last one is, why can't you put that whole system on your, on that northeast side? You've got, it looks like a lot of room over there, and the whole front yard.
One issue is where the well is. As I said before, there's a 50-foot required setback for the state statute. That northeast side is also where all the utilities come in. So you're talking about moving the gas and the midco lines. The topography is not suitable for that, according to my septic designer. There's also some wooded area on that side, which would mean the removal of some trees. And again, with the topography, it requires some soil to be trucked in. All those things make it not make it prohibitive to put the system on the northeast part of the property.
So that makes it inconvenient for you, correct?
It would mean a lot of costs in moving some of those utilities around, as well as cutting down those trees.
My comment earlier was about that turnaround. You come in, you got your garage, and then you back up right up to your, where you want to build this thing. If you took that out and moved your turnaround to the northeast side, like in front of your house, that could move that whole system at least 20, 25 feet to the north, the northeast. And that wouldn't cost much. You won't have to bring in anything because it's all level, flat level ground there.
So by doing that, you would block a parking area that is just to the west of the garage there. And again, the cost of cutting up all that concrete and then putting the turnaround back in would be prohibitive to doing that. With this kind of septic system on this tight of a lot, we're already looking at a cost of a system that's probably double of what some other systems have cost.
I guess I would just echo the concern about the neighbor and the trees, and if this is something, if you're going to be selling this property, that presents an issue to me. If you were going to, have this property for, the long haul, we could work something out where we'd have something in the language that you'd be paying for the trees if they were to die, because mature trees, you could replace them and have nice, little new trees, but that's going to be a long time for those to get to the height that they were before, and so I guess that's just me, and I'm not quite understanding. I understand the cost perspective, but that's just something I'm struggling with right now.
Okay, why don't we move to the public hearing and see what other comments we have. So the way this will work at the public hearing, we'll officially open it. We will ask anyone if they wish to speak to this application. We'll ask you to state your name and address for the record, spend a couple minutes on your thoughts of this application. When we've heard from everybody, we will close the public hearing, and then we will bring it back for further discussion with the Planning Commission. And that's how all 4 of these public hearings will work tonight. So with that, we'll open the public hearing at 7:22. Does anyone wish to speak to this issue?
I do.
Please come up, state your name and address for the record, please.
I'm Lisa Wright. I live at 21555 Imperial Avenue North. It's my property and my trees that we're discussing. So it would be devastating to lose all those beautiful trees. And besides the cost of cleaning them up, it's not just that. How much do those trees cost now?
That's what you were getting at.
Once they're gone, they're gone. And I'm sorry, but it may be cost effective for him to put that on my property line, but it's not for me, it's cost effective for him. So that bothers me a lot. I think it would be easier to move the driveway or the turnaround and pull it over. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel.
Thank you. I should have probably mentioned, we normally just listen to the comments. We don't typically respond as the Planning Commission, so I don't mean to be rude by not responding, but I should have added that little tidbit, so. It's been a long time since we've been live, so I'm still a little foggy. Does anyone else wish to speak to the issue? Karen, do we have anybody online that wishes to speak?
Well, I have one person, Shannon Peterson. I don't know if she's,
With Leela.
Leila. Oh, she's with Leila, okay. Then no.
All right, so I'll ask one more time. Does anyone else wish to speak to this issue? Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing at 7:24. Bring it back for discussion with the commission and a decision. Commissioners? Susan?
Donovan, just like a conditional use permit, the variance stays with the property, correct?
Correct.
So if we were to state that if the construction resulted in the death of the trees within 5 years, it would be the responsibility of that existing property owner that would be registered on the deed with the variance, correct?
Correct. And that one, I think the cleanest way to do that, if that's the Planning Commission's desire, is to have the current owner post some bond that after 5 years, if there's no need for that, for that tree removal, then the bond is returned to the next owner of the property.
Who makes that decision? as far as the money going back or they're,
I would suggest a trained arborist who could make some estimation of what trees could be impacted and then the cost of removal, with some contingency percentage in there. That seemed like that would be a proper way, and that's something the city can administer. So it's the future owner knows, and it's in their interest to keep an eye out and then, have that money returned if it's not used.
Walking the property, I don't think that all the trees would go, but I believe that there are several that would be lost, just because of the effect on the root structures. That's,
location.
is what it is.
I'm no expert on trees, and I know I got a couple smarter, way smarter people when it comes to trees. How far up off the property line do we think we need to say, yeah, it would be okay, that it's not likely any tree damage would happen? Is there a ballpark? And if you don't wish to comment, that's fine too. I'm just trying to figure out.
I think 20 to 25 feet would probably be the minimum from that property line.
Minimum, because those trees are so tall,
I
they're
know,
so
but that'd
big.
be the minimum.
Right.
From the property line, that'd be the minimum. Then, I mean,
So-
what I've seen out there is if they just cut off that turnaround, just cut it off. I mean, they're gonna have heavy equipment out there anyway. They could just cut that, pull it up, haul it away, and it's gone. Move that drain field and septic system closer to the driveway and call it a day.
How wide is that turnaround? It almost looks to be about, what, 10 feet or so, 10, 12 feet? Is there enough room if it was 20 to 25 feet from the line? Would he be able to do that?
Oh, yeah, it's probably, I mean, you could park a truck in there, and so, I mean, if they just cut that line straight with the driveway,
Yeah.
the existing driveway, and then they could move it over the length of that pad.
Right.
Just move it over and.
Yeah,
it'd be good.
I 100% agree. I'm not sure,
I mean, that's the minimum without occurring any extra cost. It's just cutting that cement out when they
Yeah,
come in and dig it.
I agree.
But recall also, there's the well setback. You can see that, the blue circle. So there's a limit to how far southwest it can go without impacting another setback.
Okay.
Okay, how far is it from the existing drain field?
It's already out of compliance.
Well, I mean, to that blue circle for the water.
About 12 feet.
Because I can't see that.
Get your number.
Is the property owner on? Maybe he knows.
I am on, but I'm not exactly sure what the question is.
How far is the existing field to the well setback? Is that the question?
Right. That blue circle, you said that's, nothing could go inside that blue circle, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
How far is it from the existing?
Right, yeah, right there.
Down 10 feet.
Okay, well, there, if you move it up, cut that off right at that blue line, at least you're 10 feet off the line.
You're
But
still gonna,
did we say, though, 20, 25 feet for trees, though?
yeah.
He's going to be
I
stuck.
would say the minimum would be 20, I mean, I would go 20, but 25 would probably be a little better, but.
Okay.
You're talking on the property line now, that just 1 inch over is the neighbor's property. And then she's gonna have to deal with this the rest of her life.
Mike, because this is such a small piece of ground, and you've got the well issue, I think that the best that we can do is to protect the neighbor from the financial damage.
With a bond?
Yeah, And Donovan, I would expect that the city would get at least 2 different estimates of the cost.
I'm still not up on, right on the property line though. Is there any way they can turn it? Or is that
We'll run into the MinDOT right away.
That's a state, right away there? At the S50?
Yep.
That's a tough one.
I mean, 10 feet is better than nothing. I mean, if that's the only way it's gonna go.
But I would still want to make sure that there was a bond.
Oh, absolutely.
So you're saying cut that turnaround in half, right at that blue line?
Yeah, up to the, yeah.
Cut that off, remove it, and move the septic system
I mean,
10, 12 feet over?
yeah. I mean, aesthetically, they'll probably have to chop the thing off, because,
Plus a
you know,
Yeah. Or when
But-
they drive in there, it's gonna break off.
right.
They're coming in with big trucks. Yeah, if that's the best we can do. But we have to think of the neighbor.
We can't, we're not allowed to do the design work, though.
So about, to answer your question, it's yours in your head, since we can't do the design work. And this is what's presented to us, our 2 options are to either
Deny?
deny based on the information we have for the table, and let the applicant come back. They've heard our comments, and have them come back. We take care of it then.
I'm gonna make a motion that, at this time, to deny this application with this existing plan and come back with something, say maybe cut that turnaround off right at the blue line and move that drain field over 10, 12 feet, whatever it is, and, but I can't design it, I can't.
No. Mike, if we deny, then he has to pay, to come back, he has to pay the
$500.
the fee all over again,
Oh.
the variance fee all over again. Would it be possible for you to withdraw your motion, please, sir?
I will withdraw that motion. Table it then? I'm gonna make a motion to table this and have the owner come back with different plan.
And the cost, and at least 2 estimates of the cost of tree removal, so that we know what the bond should be set at, and quite frankly, that is in the applicant's best interest too.
Are there any parameters we're gonna set on who is gonna make the estimate? Or is it just whoever?
They need to be certified arborists.
Okay.
I have a motion on the table. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. It's a non-debatable motion, but I will state that we will take this up, if it's okay with the applicant. Our next meeting will be September 8th, since we don't have a late August one. So, Mike, if you could amend to do that.
Okay, I'll amend my motion and, what's the date, September 8th?
September 8th.
We're gonna, I make a motion that we table this with, the contingency on the two estimates by licensed arborist for tree removal, stump grinding, the works. And to get a quote on, so we can get a quote, or whoever gets the quote on the bonds. Would that be the city?
The city would be the holder of it, and it would,
Okay.
you know, be to
Any-
what the condition of the variance would be, as far as the amount.
Until the September 8th Planning Commission meeting. That's our next meeting.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you very much. So what this means,
What about replacing the trees? They're down, they're dead, they're done.
that'll all be in the bid.
We'll have to take care. So what'll happen is that this will come before the commission again on September 8th. So mark your calendar, it'll be an exciting evening. State Fair will be over, you'll be happy. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7 is 8501, 230, excuse me, 235th Street, septic variance application. We'll hold a public hearing to consider this permit application. Donovan, I assume you're presenting?
Yes. Chair and members of the Planning Commission, I'd like to present the septic variance application for Gary and Marty Novak, who live at 8501 235th Street. It's located, of course, on 235th Street on a property that is primarily wetlands. It is about a 9.8 acre parcel with essentially the house, accessory structures, and the septic field within a small peninsula on the property. And of course, the yellow representing approximate wetland boundaries. A wetland delineation has been submitted. It's going through, I believe, some of the final approval. And the actual septic application is for the variance is for to locate the septic field 20 feet from the wetlands, where the required setback is 75. As shown here in their submitted plan, it shows the the proposed area. It identifies the only available area, and the wetland line is shown here with the 20-foot setback in two places, and then location B was an option, but is identified as too close to the well, and then C is a original septic field and can't be reused. And so this is their what they've identified as part of their submittal. They did not submit a septic design with this, but based on their their inquiry with this is the only acceptable location. Again, based on the lack of other options, based on the small spit of land where it is, the staff findings do find that there's a practical difficulty with this in meeting that 75-foot wetland setback, and staff recommendation is to approve with the condition that the applicant obtains an improved wetland delineation, which the public comment period just ended, and so that's expected soon, and that the proper permitting is obtained. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions from the Planning Commission.
Commissioners, any questions for Donovan? Susan?
Donovan, the lines that you've got here that you're kind of assuming are the wetland, those are like a guess, right?
Those are done by Jacobson Environmental, who we've seen a lot of their work.
But you said in your report that you don't have a certified, you don't have the wetland assessment yet.
They produced the report. The official wetland delineation requires the panel review, comment period, and to be closed, which it closed 2 days ago. So I don't have the notice of decision.
So you don't have the decision yet?
Correct.
And Donovan, the existing C is a regular drain field?
I believe it's identified as the existing
Okay.
and can't be reused according to the
Well,
narrative.
but it's pretty standard to put a mound on top of an old drain field.
Okay. I also,
I'm just concerned that if that is the delineation.
okay. I understand that, and, you know, they would have to, I mean, there is wiggle room to move it over to the west if indeed it needs to be moved. And it's my experience that, you know, if they walk the line, you know, it might move one way or another, but not drastically.
If there's wiggle room to the west, why aren't they wiggling?
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions?
Is this, Donovan, is this like the best location for that? Or is there, can they go over to the left of the existing drain field?
No.
Can't go over there?
They're right in the boundary on the other side.
I guess also, you know, looking up, there's this, it does say that old septic field also exists in this kind of more northeast area. Well. And the applicants are here, perhaps you can provide some more information when Planning Commission asks on the alternatives they did consider.
Other questions of Donovan? Hearing none, would the applicant like to hopefully shed some light on a few of these questions? And if you would just state your name and address for the record, please.
Gary and Marty Novak.
Address.
8501 235th Street North.
Thank you.
The Area C, that was the original
Drainfield.
drain field on the property back when the house was built.
Mm-hmm.
When we bought the property, just below the drawing, between B and A is where the existing mound system is now. The septic designer picked this area, thought this would be the best area for it. Because of the driveway, we can't go out in area B because of the well.
Yep.
But C is not anywhere we could put it, because there's actually a bank right there, and that would be closer to
The wetland.
the wetland than where position A is.
We do have a contract for sale on the property. The buyers have walked the property. They like the location of A because they can still use the area between the outbuilding and A. They're able to drive between what would be the new mound and that outbuilding to use the area behind the building.
And just to make sure I can clarify, where C was, so you're basically saying the wetlands kind of come in like this on the property?
Yeah.
Kind of V's down?
It's very
That's what I
close
thought.
on the C side.
Thank you. Questions of the
Yeah,
applicant?
you can pretty much see how it
All right,
goes.
technology at its best. Wow.
This drains to, where does your wetland drain to?
That's a good question. We don't really know. I think it is part of the Comfort Lake watershed.
That's,
That would be my guess.
yeah, that's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. We really don't want to, we put a whole lot of money into that lake and that watershed. And I'm not sure we,
How about behind the existing shop? There's a round, what's that round circle or circular between that and the existing shed? What is that?
That
On-
was a shed. That shed has been removed.
Okay, I'm trying to think what page I'm on here. It's on the survey. Page 26. Oh, wait, I might have gone to 25. Yeah, it shows the existing house and garage. Then it's got the driveway going back to existing shop, and behind the shop, there's like a round, almost looks like a,
Oh, I think that's a propane tank.
oh, that's propane tank. Okay. And then your existing shed, the shed's gone.
The shed is.
The small shed.
The small shed has been removed. That's behind the shop,
How many sheds did you have?
just the one.
Oh, and that's gone.
Yeah.
No, this one I did not walk the property, so that's why I'm gonna ask a couple questions, like if that mound system could go behind the existing shop, and move that propane tank then to the other side where it says proposed mound system. You've got that bigger area, would that be closer? Would that be farther away?
It'd be
Closer to the
closer to the wetlands. We
Because
need
that's
a-
right on the point of the peninsula.
Donovan, can you put up the other picture of the, kind of showing the peninsula there? It comes real clear
aerial
when you
photo?
see this picture.
Mm-hmm.
Donovan, there was another photo that seemed to show the land a little bit better,
Oh, there was a,
older photo,
This one?
obviously, but.
I guess one reason also for the position A is we're trying not to cut down as many trees as we can to fit the system in.
Can someone educate me why? No, forget it. I don't need any education. I'm just stupid sometimes. Oh, take that comment back.
Now you got me curious.
Where they got a shed there? I
Yeah.
keep forgetting that's not the old drain field. So
Oh,
since my glasses aren't very good, I couldn't read if that was
yeah, that one right there, Donovan.
septic or shed.
Where's the existing mound?
Between B and A, there's a little system of arrows.
the old septic mound area
Yes,
here.
that's the existing.
That's where it's at now.
That's where it's at now.
And I assume that's still in the setback by current standards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's under the current setbacks.
Any other questions for the applicant at this time? Thank you, Maureen. We have more for you. This is a public hearing. We ask if anyone who wishes to speak to this issue, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Spend a couple minutes telling us your thoughts, and then we will close it after everyone has spoke. So we'll officially open the hearing at 7:48 PM. Does anyone wish to speak to this issue? Karen, is anyone online who wishes to speak?
I have no one.
I'll ask one more time, does anyone wish to speak to this issue? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the public hearing at 7:49 PM for further discussion and a decision by the Planning Commission. Commissioners?
Donovan, what's the current setback? Is it 50 or 75?
It's 75.
75. And they're asking 20?
You're asking for us to be 20 feet from the wetland line.
Okay.
Commissioners, I'm hearing a lot of crickets up here.
Yeah, I know. I know. Y'all realize that you may be wiggling it to the west and cutting down the distance between the shed that they're gonna be able to drive on, depending on where that final delineation is, correct?
When were you planning on moving?
Tentative closing date is
Okay. I'll do it. Chair, I'm going to move that the variance be granted, subject to the comments of staff, and that the system shall be no closer than 20 feet from the approved delineated wetland.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. So this variance has been approved, and the planning commission is the final decision on the variance, unless there's someone who is opposed to this, and they have 1 week to contact the city with a letter stating why they are opposed to this application. Otherwise, good luck on your project. Hope it all goes well.
But you do need to wait for construction until you have the approved. Okay.
Item 8 is 132 19th Street Southwest, a sign variance application. We will hold a public hearing to consider the sign variance application. Donovan, I assume you're presenting?
Yes, sir. Chair and members of the Planning Commission, I'd like to present the sign variance application for 132 19th Street Southwest. The applicant is Minnesota Truck Headquarters, who are here representing the application. The location of this is within the car dealership row on 19th Street Southwest, so it's south of Broadway. It's on a property that currently is used for vehicle sales. Minnesota Truck Headquarters just recently purchased it, and they're improving the property. It's paving this gravel area and striping, providing a delineated barrier between the vehicle parking area and landscaping, and also, trying to match it to how they've developed in other cities. And the current sign code for commercial properties for freestanding signs set the maximum height at the lowest part of the roof. That in some ways, this is how the zoning code encourages businesses to produce substantial structures on their property. And that's kind of what I see as an underlying impact or effect anyways of this. And so that the larger structure allows for taller signs. In this case, the current structure shown here has the lowest roof part is 9.2 feet above grade. And so what the variance application is to allow a 25-foot pylon sign shown in a simulation here on the property, set the required 10 feet back from the property line with this. And it will be illuminated, and they've also shown a site plan showing the location of it, which would be south of the current entrance, which they're not changing. And here's showing some of the landscaping they do. Showing and in conversations, with the project team, they've identified as their desire to have a taller sign, since where they desire to, park the vehicles, the trucks, along here, a height of 9.2 would not, and the parked vehicles would basically be obscuring much of the sign. And so, and I suggested perhaps the vehicle parking could be changed to allow for greater visibility, and that's not their desire, as well as I would see a potential ability to put the sign on the northern part, presumably where most of the traffic will come off of the freeway, coming south from Broadway, but that wasn't their desire as well. And so they've applied for the variance. They note in their narrative that they believe that it would be that the condition is, the special condition is that the building was constructed prior to what they deem the restrictive sign ordinance was enacted, and that it would not provide, if a conforming sign would not provide the same site identification as a neighboring dealerships and businesses. And several of the neighboring businesses have pylon signs that extend above their buildings. And, they note they can be seen in one of the photos here. For instance, next door, like Caliber Collision, for instance. And, observation along the street does show that, yes, there are non-conforming signs along that strip, and that's like in many places. We can see in the city many non-conformities, and it's not a criteria for granting a variance that non-conformities exist. And in this case, if the Planning Commission used non-conformities as the basis of granting a variance, it would be largely, putting their opinion above city council's and actually writing, a new sign code. Because the city council at one point said that this pylon sign should be, or freestanding sign should only have this certain height based on the principal structure. But the dealer's desire is to have this tall sign, and they identify the hardship that would result from a denial of the variance is that like businesses in the area have non-conforming signs. Did receive one call from a nearby business owner, and the owner opposes the granting of the variance. The owner said that they have abided by the city rules, and even saw another local dealership having to reduce their sign height because of these rules, as well as the owner said that if this was granted, that the owner would be in soon to also apply for variance. So there's the whole, bringing up, of course, the precedence notion that, if this was granted, there would be additional variance requests. With that, I'm happy to take any questions from the Planning Commission.
Questions of Donovan?
Donovan, as I remember, the existing sign ordinance was enacted because of, I need to be polite, because of the unappealing visual aspects of the signs that are now non-conforming. In other words, the ordinance was enacted to fix a problem so that it would not occur again.
Donovan, can they put a monument sign here?
Yeah, commercial properties in this B2 Highway Commercial District can have one monument sign per property.
Is that like the Buick GMC dealership across the street, or?
Correct, yeah. I mean, generally, I don't think Goodwill has a sign, but generally, most properties do have at least one, freestanding sign. And I did the research looking at this property. I haven't seen that there's been one installed before.
Other questions, Donovan? Hearing none, would the applicant like to speak? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Nathan Elliott, and we are, what's our address there? What's the address there?
132 18th Street, Southwest.
Perfect, thank you.
Perfect.
Good. All right. I think the main issue and why we want the variance is not necessarily because others have it, but also because obviously they're competitors at the same time, so I think it gives us I guess it gives them a hand up on us as far as competition goes, if we don't have that type of sign, but also it gives us the ability to be seen from 35. So a lot of those businesses do have a taller sign. I know there's some that are not car dealerships, I understand that, but I think if you're looking at auto dealerships in general on that row, if we're all the same height, I think it makes sense. That way it doesn't give somebody a competitive advantage over somebody else.
Anyone else wish to address?
My name is Tim Olinger. I'm the contractor that's remodeling and refurbishing the existing building. First off, thank you for considering our request tonight. But one thing I want to point out, Donovan, can you bring up the overhead,
Sure.
looking down at the property? One of the handouts showed the gable end of Minnesota Truck Headquarters, and it shows the lower roof. If you look at the building, it's actually a two-tier building. The west side is actually a shop and has a higher roof line. It's about 30 feet plus tall. The lower side is the sales floor, which is about a 25-foot tall roof line. So it's a split level. So one of the points that the zoning department pointed out is that the circumstances were kind of brought on by the owner, and and that's in item C of the facts. But in the discussion items, it says the zoning code does not list the presence of nearby non-conforming signs as an evaluation criteria, but you have to show that things are overly restricted. Well, they bought an existing building, so they didn't have to tear down and build a new building. It's cost prohibitive to build a new building. And one of the items that was pointed out is that that the owner can build up the building to get a taller sign, which is kind of, it's a hardship for the owner to have to build a taller building to get a taller sign. Now, they're in the business of selling vehicles, so every inch of the parking lot is critical to to increase their inventory. So that's why the parking lot shows the layout that it does. Now, the boulevard is about 15 feet from the right-of-way to the street, and so there's really no place to really put a monument sign and avoid parking the cars around it to identify the business. So if you look at the sign isn't a reader board. It doesn't flash. It illuminates at night. It's a plain square box on a pole that identifies Minnesota Truck Headquarters. So I guess I'm kind of trying to appeal to common sense that we're not trying to be gaudy or anything like that. And if you look at all the other like businesses down the street, they're either above their roof line or they'll have multiple 30-foot tall signs. And I know I can't appeal to the economic part of it, but it does put my client at a disadvantage.
Thank you. Questions of the applicant?
I I'm asking this because I don't know. The signs that are on the same side of the street as yours that have certain elevation, can those be seen from the freeway?
The body shop next door would be, yes.
So if I was driving down 35, I could see that sign on that side of the street from the freeway? Okay, I was curious, I didn't know.
Put up the picture of the sign,
Sure.
and you'll be able to see the out-of-body sign next door. And that actually goes above their parapet. And ours would not be as tall as that.
Yeah, I think you had mentioned that visibility from the freeway and signs. I was just curious if these other signs were able to be seen from the freeway or not, or if it was just this frontage road, so to speak.
And I believe there's a few, I think Whitaker right across the road does have multiple signs. So they do have the monument sign in the front at the entryway, and they have a larger sign on the back side of their dealership as well. That is above the roof line.
And so does the Chevrolet dealership down the street.
Other questions for the applicant? We may have more for you, but thank you for coming up here. This is a public hearing. We'll ask if anyone wishes to speak to this issue to please come forward, state your name and address for the record, spend a couple minutes telling us your thoughts on this application. After we've heard everyone, we will close the public hearing. So officially open the public hearing at 8:07 PM. Does anyone wish to speak to this application? Karen, you have anyone that is online that wishes to speak to this?
I have no one online right now.
Thank you. I'll ask one more time, does anyone wish to speak to this application? Seeing no one come forward, we will close the public hearing at 8:07 PM also. So I must have hit the clock just right. And bring it back to the commission for discussion and a decision. Susan?
Forest Lake has gone through several iterations of our sign ordinance. And quite frankly, the current height ordinances were put in place because of issues, perceived issues, with the signs that you're citing, that they were too big, they were out of place, they were too tall, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so for me to say, there was a sign ordinance that was put in place to fix a problem, and I'm going to make the problem again, is not something that I can do. And so I think that you're going to, once people are on the street, you're going to be visible with a sign that is appropriate height. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move denial of the variance request. And I believe that I need to go through the findings of fact, correct?
No.
There's two
mostly if you have
recommendations
your,
here.
State the reasons for denial.
The applicant has not provided sufficient reason for us to grant a variance from the established ordinances of the city. And you do have opportunities to display your business and to advertise your business. Yeah, so.
We have a motion, do we have a second? I'll second. Discussion on the motion. I only have a comment. Planning Commission has been very favorable towards businesses, and we welcome you to the city of Forest Lake. Signs have been a major pain in this side and other areas of the body. So we're not taking it out on you, it's just generally in the city, we are attempting to clean up our sign issues throughout. So I will be backing the motion.
I have a comment.
Go ahead, Mike.
My comment was, or is, on that northeast corner where you're gonna put in the boulder car display area, that'd be a great place for a monument, right there, with your name and everything right in there, have a truck sitting up on top of that. And you're not losing any inventory space, because you're already having a bolder display, car display there. You could incorporate a really nice monument there. So,
Any other
it's just-
comments?
I was actually going to say the exact same thing. I think that would give you a little bit more visibility. And I think too, just driving by there, I think you have some pretty sweeping views of the business too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really can't back this, unfortunately.
Any other comments? If none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. So we are the final decision unless you wish to appeal this decision, and then the city council will hear the appeal. You need to have a letter to the city within a week stating that you want to appeal it, and then it'll be placed on their agenda. Good luck with your business in town. Number 9 is 19850 Fenway Avenue, a wall sign CUP. It's a Fifth Amendment application. Hold a public hearing, then consider CUP amendment application.
Okay, thank you very much.
Donovan, I trust you're presenting?
Yes, sir. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, I'd like to present the CUP amendment for the Lakes International Language Academy to place a wall sign, a permanent wall sign, on the eastern face of their Headwaters campus building. Leela has been before this body multiple times for different CUP amendments to expand their high school campus building and campus. It's located at 19850 Fenway Avenue, in the intersection of Fenway and Headwaters Parkway. The aerial photo here shows the building, parking lot, and grounds around it. And it did complete an expansion of the building a couple years ago, and now they're seeking to place a sign on that eastern wall. What they presented is a 200 square foot illuminated sign. They've also presented to the Planning Commission an alternative 257 square foot illuminated sign on the same east elevation. I should mention that Shannon Peterson from the Leela School is here to represent the application. She is beaming in remotely. There are no institutional sign guidelines for residential zoning districts. There is a wall sign standards for existing non-conforming commercial uses, and the maximum sign area for that type of use, that non-conforming commercial use in a residential zoning district, is 200 square feet, which matches the first sign that they've proposed. As I mentioned, they do have the 257 square foot option, and also this does include their mascot. And what their rationale for seeking to have a larger sign relates to letter visibility, and they've submitted as part of their submittal package some information from the sign installer on how lettering, bigger lettering enhances visibility from a longer distance, and show that. And this is on your screen there, that is the visibility for both 16 inch lettering, which is the 200 square foot, I believe, option, 16 inch letter, and then the 257 square foot option does have 22 inch letters. So that's a difference in visibility of 360 versus 500. In my conversations, with the lead of the school and the sign installer, I told them that I favored the 200 square foot option, since we could peg it to a standard, and this being adjacent to a residential district, that that size, I believe would be adequate. Also, that the fact that this is one institutional building amidst a residential neighborhood, and at this point, open land or farmland, the school itself, the building itself represented some identification. And so, that was my idea with preferring the 200 square foot size versus 257. I did receive a email from a nearby resident who was concerned about dimming the lights during non-school or during later evening hours. There was not a photometric plan submitted with this application. I did request one from the applicant. In simple reviewing the, another large wall sign, which was the one for the Forest Lake Area District Schools.
Oh, don't even bring that one up.
I need to mention it, sorry. To show how, looking at that, looking at the photometric plan for that sign, how, and assuming there's similar amounts of illumination, that, it's rather instructive on how quickly, and I estimate about 80 feet from the wall face to this red line. The red line is the maximum threshold of 0.4 foot candles, which cannot be cast over a property line. And so give you an idea of where a similar wall sign would also most likely be compliant. And at this point, the staff recommendation is for approval of the 200 square foot area sign, with the requirement that a photometric plan be submitted with a sign permit. And I'm happy to take any questions from the Planning Commission.
Commissioners?
Donovan, you
Sorry,
said
Donovan?
that's the 16-inch?
Correct. This is the 16-inch, which is the 200 square foot option presented.
Donovan, what is the lighting at night there? Since we are in a residential neighborhood, do the lights in that parking lot go off? I'm not quite sure what our other schools are doing. I think like we're on 4th down there, I don't think they have any real lights on at night.
I assume there's some lights for security. You can see
Yes.
there are, in this picture, you can see a couple lights in the parking lot. I believe, Shannon Peterson from the school could probably illuminate us on that one.
You're planning that one, aren't you?
Other questions of Donovan? Because he's here all week. Would the applicant like to address the Planning Commission?
Sure, I would love to. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure
please.
can.
Please state your name and
Okay,
address
I'm
for the record.
Shannon Peterson, 9646 215th Street North, Forest Lake. And so I would like to first illuminate you on the parking lot lights. They are lit all night, as are the multiple street lights between the school and the residential neighborhood closest to us. And so I would urge for the 257 square foot sign. It's a little bit bigger. We can, however, put it on a timer so that it does dim at night if that's what the neighbors would prefer. Yeah, I think, Donovan, do you have yeah, you've got the 257 and then the 200. It looks actually quite similar. It's almost hard to tell them apart. However, what we do know is that the 16-inch letters can be seen from, they're legible from 360 feet, and so one city block, and the 22-inch letters are legible from about 500 feet. And so that would make it legible from the traffic circle, which is what I would really like to see, just because we're going to have people from out of town. We've got parents, we've got grandparents coming to performances there. We've got, you know, opposing teams now that we've got some sports and activities going on. And once the Farnham, or excuse me, the road between the front of the school and the freeway is completed, I think most of our traffic will come from that direction. And it would be nice, it would be safe, it would be a good idea for them to be able to know where they're going and see that they're in the right place. Because on the one hand, you've got the school right there, and then on the right side, if you're going around that traffic circle, you've got the YMCA. They look kind of similar. I just think it's a good recognizable feature to have signage you can read from the traffic circle without struggling, and that's why we'd like to see the larger one. We do want to be good neighbors, and we don't want to make it a problem for the neighbors. We don't want it to be gaudy or, you know, annoying to people who live there. And I think it would probably be okay. We will get the photometric study, but our vendor didn't have that at the ready. So we can get something like that, but we haven't done it yet. I think with the parking lot between that sign, there's a parking lot, there's a road, there are several street lights that are also lit all night. And then there's a pond before you get to the neighbors' homes, the backyards of the neighbors' homes. So if it becomes an issue, we can dim it or put it on a timer to even turn off after our activities are over for the day.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for the applicant? Susan?
Peterson, I have a couple questions. One, now the Y is not right there. When you're coming up Fenway, it's all houses, and then there's the school, so that I'm not as concerned about that. Is there a reason why you didn't choose a color for your sign that provides you with greater contrast to the building? I think it's not the size of the lettering that sort of fades away. There's very, very little contrast between the color of the building and the sign. And you could probably get some addition if you did not include the mascot. I realize that is near and dear to everybody at the school's heart. But could you talk about the lack of contrast?
I guess we really wanted it to be something that would be visible, and it is visible during the day, and then at night it doesn't really, the color doesn't matter. It's just the light that will make it show out. So against the building during the day, a white lettering will show up. We're also looking at uniformity with our other branding. It's similar to the sign we did on our kindergarten center last spring. We want it to be aesthetically pleasing. We want it to match and make all of our buildings look, be recognizable immediately.
Thank you.
Other questions of the applicant? Mike?
Yeah, I had that on my list too, the colors stand out and stuff. But, because if you look at, on page 44, the picture that Donovan has up right now, look to your left where that sign that says Lakes International with the blue letters. You can read every letter. You look at the sign on the right from 12 inches or 24 inches from the screen, and it's hard to see that. I mean, it's hard to read all the letters. They kind of blend in with the wall. And that's my only comment, other than, yeah, it'd be nice to put that on a timer where 10 o'clock every night it shuts off till morning.
Any other questions of the applicant?
I was just curious, on that multicolored tile sort of wall, are those windows, or are they black tiles, or what are they?
Yeah, they're windows, yeah,
They are windows, okay. All right, thank you.
yes.
All right, thank you, Ms. Peterson. If you'd stand by, we're going to hold a public hearing part.
Yep.
This is a public hearing. We ask if anyone wishes to speak to this issue. If we ask you to come up, please state your name and address for the record. Spend a couple minutes giving us your thoughts. After we have heard everyone, we will close the public hearing and then bring it back for a decision by the Planning Commission. So we'll officially open the public hearing at 8:26 p.m. Does anyone wish to speak to this issue? I ask that you state your name and address for the record.
Ken Orwell. I live at 19927 Farnham Avenue North. So our property is right backside, touch of the school property. I'm really kind of concerned with the light pollution that the school creates. And I was real concerned that this maybe was a digital sign too. Obviously this sign is not facing us, but at night, if we don't have our curtains drawn, I don't need a light on in my house. I can walk around and do anything I want because so much light comes from the school. Last summer, they had turned them off for the summer, so we could open up our curtains and windows and get fresh air without having the air conditioning on all the time. So my real concern is the light pollution. It's, you know, I understand they need stuff for security. I think that's important, but some way if they could dim it or put sensors on it so somebody drives through, lights come on, I can understand that and wouldn't have a problem. So, and I'm not sure how bright this is gonna be for the people across on Fenway, but I know those homes also have bedrooms facing that road, which may be a real issue for them. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Does anyone else wish to speak to this issue?
Just a point of clarification, most of the light, I assume, is coming from the parking lot, correct, into your house?
Correct.
And it's less from the building itself?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, do we have anyone online that wishes to speak?
I don't have anyone.
Thank you. I'll ask one more time. Does anyone wish to speak to this issue? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close the public hearing at 8:28 and bring it back for public comment, for commissioners' comments and to make a decision. Susan?
Donovan, with respect to the parking lot lights, when the city allowed that, it had to meet the specification of the amount of light that went away from the property.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little concerned as to why it doesn't.
I don't have an immediate answer for that one. I'll research that.
Okay.
because,
Would you
we
please?
do, you know, the same standards that apply to wall signs.
Yes.
that, you know, maximum, you know, 0.4 foot candles at the property line apply to any site lighting as well.
Okay. Would you please check that?
Other comments?
You know, maybe it's as simple as when they installed the lights, somebody forgot to add the shields.
Yeah, I mean, shields really do work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do, they work wonderfully well, but, you know, sometimes when things are getting installed, people forget it.
You? Other comments?
Is the motion tonight for the 16-inch or the 22-inch, or it's gonna be up to us?
Donovan's motion is for the 200 square foot sign, which is the 16-inch. The 257 square foot sign would be the 22-inch letters.
I just wanted to clarify. That's what I was thinking.
The 257 is still within acceptable parameters, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, there's no specified maximum for you know, an institution in a residential zoning district.
Do we have any at the schools that, in the residentials that are up near this size even, of 200?
We have, Really only done, otherwise, to my knowledge, I didn't do the research other schools, but it was, the high school campus, middle school
Mhm.
where there's a modification of existing wall signs, and I didn't look to this standard at that time.
I don't recall anybody, but I thought maybe we'd,
At the high school, we did deny their request for the large size sign on their concession building. They wanted the oversized sign for the concession building, and we did deny that.
that was the meeting that never happened.
They didn't build it?
No, we didn't deny it, it wasn't allowed to be held.
Oh.
You must have missed the meeting after to get the update on it.
You express your displeasure. I didn't follow the proper CUP notification and, formal application requirements.
Oh, now it's all coming back to me. Oh, yes, thank you, I'm sorry. It's
lights
the brain
went on.
cells. It's the brain
The
cells.
lights went on. She was,
Man,
2 points.
she was eliminated.
2 points.
Donovan, what's the conforming photometric plan? It says it has to be a conforming.
Yeah. That's one where it doesn't have more than 0.4 foot candles, illumination over the property line from the
Okay,
the
because
thing
of the
emitting
homes,
the
the
light.
homes across the street on that side, that's what I was concerned about.
And then the reason, and it's 0.4 is actually, if you look at all these, the photometric plans, it's, it's not, it's fairly bright, but, we comply. Like, for instance, the Minnesota Truck Headquarters have, 24-foot, lights they were gonna install, and they're throughout their, parking lot, and, they're complying, and mostly it is related to the, the shields on the luminaires, so that they can direct the light where they really need to, and not, direct it where it would be impermissible.
Well, I concur. Yeah, it would be nice, I think, or just beneficial for the sign if it was a different color, like a blue or a black. Definitely would stand out more. But having said that, I'm open to the 257 square feet, provided that there is probably some adequate dimming at night.
other comments? Personally, I'm fine with it. 200 square foot sign. I think in this day and age, that half the people press Google on their phone to find out where they're going anyways. So based on that 2 cents of mine, I would make a motion to approve, or recommend approval of the amendment to the conditional use permit for Lakes International Academy Headwaters Campus at 19850 Fenway to allow a 200 square foot sign with the 6 conditions.
Mr. Chair, I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion?
Can we add like a timer on that? So it,
We can, conditional use permits can be reviewed if there's complaints. And that's the only reason
Okay.
I
that's
didn't put
fine,
it on.
if they get complaints.
So we're not making this subject to a photometric? Is that not
Yes.
part of
No,
the
we
motion?
are.
No, that's part of it.
Okay,
But
Not a timer.
Mike had asked about making them dim it at night.
yeah.
And,
Yep.
and if there were complaints, then the CUP would be reviewed and we would
Okay,
modify the CUP at that
okay.
time.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if the photometric was part of the 6 points, but,
Yeah, if the photometric is somewhere on.
okay, that's
That's
fine.
just the brightness.
Number 3.
Okay, thank
is
you.
the photometric. Other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ms. Peterson, are you still on the line?
Yes.
Thank you. You know, sometimes we have to listen to the ceiling now when people are
Yeah.
attending. So We approved a 200 square foot sign. If you are not happy with that decision, you can appeal that to the city council. You have 1 week to get a letter to the city staff, and then the city council will take up the application at one of their meetings. Is
Okay,
is that
that
clear?
sounds great. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, and thank you for participating tonight. Number 10 is Shields Lake Park Land Exchange. This is a little unusual for us. We are only looking at one small aspect of this, and that's to waive the 45-day review period. So please keep that in mind, that that's what they're looking for tonight, not whether or not we agree with what they want to do. So Donovan, I believe you're presenting?
Okay, yes, I am. Chair, members of the Planning Commission, I'd like to present the Shields Lake Park Exchange. And I can see that I corrected the memo. I believe I corrected the memo in one place. The city attorney did correct me that actually it's the, you know, the purpose of this review is for the Planning Commission to give a chance to approve or deny the proposed sale. And it would be just a recommendation to council, but state statute says that any sale of city property requires a review by the Planning Commission. So it's not about simply waiving the 45-day review. There is a 45-day review period for the Planning Commission. So, just to clarify that.
So you'll be looking for a motion this evening?
Correct.
Okay.
And I'd like to dig in now into these details. Now this is, Shields Lake, in the middle of the city of Forest Lake, has a property. It's approximately, I think, 38 acres or so in the middle of it, on the south side. In 1983 or so, there was a section of land that was dedicated as parkland. It was one of the Jeans brothers was going to do development that somehow, for whatever reason, didn't happen. But meanwhile, this park dedication occurred, and as part of this dedication, there was an easement dedicated, allowing access to this park area. And here in the staff memo, there's a little more of a description of that. 66 feet wide. It's never been improved. It's kind of a Jeep trail. I've driven a couple of times. You can go see the city park. And the city park, and I've not certain exactly where it is, but the photo here gives you some idea of what the park looks like. And I believe it's basically wooded wetland area. And this, again, going back to the aerial, you can see the proximate wetland lines, which basically cover the city-owned land, this dedicated parkland. Well, with the new owner for this large parcel, Mr. Joe Palumbo, he has approached the city, and what he's proposed is a transfer of land. And this transfer of land would involve trading this little, the blue area there for the red area, which is adjacent to a current city park on the eastern shore of Shields Lake. There's a dock. There's actually the city and this is showing a little more description, easier here to see. This parcel there, that's existing city, and what this land transfer involves, so it's not strictly a sale, it's more of a transfer of land from one area to the other, from one owner, from private to public ownership here. And the city gains pretty good length of shoreline. Some of it is wet, but it's a pretty heavily wooded area. There is a picnic table here, perhaps, and there's this dock. The city just received a DNR grant to improve the dock, and with an aerator in the lake, it can offer year-round, ice fishing for people who are mobility challenged. So you could, wheel your wheelchair out and throw a line in. So I think that's pretty exciting. I think the DNR is pretty excited about it too. So that's why they funded that grant. And basically what the city would be giving up is land that's never been improved. Jamie, the parks coordinator, and I went out one time. Of course, we couldn't really find it, but here it is. But instead, the city gets, this chunk of shoreline, as well as $10,000, and with the expectation that would be put into, for improvements in this park, maybe, a shelter, that sort of thing. Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission hasn't decided that yet. And that also with the understanding that the private landowner would pay for transaction costs. They've proposed up to $5,000, but that is part of the actual proposal and yet to be reviewed by City Council. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions from the Planning Commission.
So we're just here for the waiver?
No.
No. We now need to make a motion to
In support
recommend,
or-
would that be recommend to the city council whether we should do this
Oh,
land
approve
swap or
it,
not?
approve the transfer?
Yeah, make a recommendation to city council. I think that's what you're looking for, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Susan?
Donovan, the black lines here on your map, those are the property boundaries?
Correct. And so the approximate area that would go from private to public hands is essentially this hatched,
Yeah.
kind of this hatched area.
Would have been nice to, be able to make that a little bit easier at the curve. But that is not part of the property in question. So what they are saying is that they would provide the city $10,000 and pay all of the transfer fees.
Yeah, for them, it's up to $5,000 for attorney fees, that sort of thing.
But it's $10,000 plus they will handle the attorney and transfer fees.
Correct.
That's not part of the 10,000.
Correct.
Other questions for Donovan? Personally, I have no problem with this.
I like it. I like it.
So I'll make a motion to recommend that the city council, we move forward with the land swap to get 3.3 acres and give up our 38 or so acres of wetland.
Dollars.
Second.
And the dollars.
Huh?
And the dollars.
We have a motion and a second, and I'd like to amend my motion to, we get $10,000 in parkland dedication to be used to upgrade the park, and the landowners proposing the swap pays up to $5,000 in fees for the legal documents to do that.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. We move on to our other. I'll start by, I don't think we have Councilperson Munson online tonight, correct? So Donovan, we'll start with you then. Anything else today?
We do not have a meeting, a second meeting in August, I'll say. And I'll note that the applicant for the garage variance at the intersection of 190th and Fenway did withdraw their application. They're seeking other options to get the garage they want. I think involving, you know, a lot line adjustment with the adjacent property owner. And then also the 7089 North Shore Trail variance appeal was heard by the City Council this past Monday night, and the council tabled it pending a review where all 5 members are there, and they seek to have the applicant allow more time for their research to, you know, present their case, and also to have you know, all 5 members there, since a motion to deny did not pass. So it was a 2-2 vote, and the city attorney at the time said it's somewhat inconclusive, so that, and the 120-day rule requires that 120 days, which expires on September 7th, requires that there be a decision made by the city, by the local jurisdiction who was applied to, and there was not a decision made if a motion didn't pass. You know, it's just simply.
Was the motion to approve, or was the motion to deny?
Motion was to deny.
Okay, deny the variance, okay. Okay.
And it was 2-2.
2-2, correct.
So just to clarify, I'm a little confused because there was a decision that should have been made on Monday, but then it didn't have to be. That's where I was a little bit foggy.
Well, the you know, back in June, when there was, you know, the Planning Commission denied the variance application, I asked the applicant, Mr. Smith, if he wanted to put it on the next available City Council agenda, because there's always like a 10-day, you know, notification period for the applicant, and that can't be met by just like the next Planning Commission, next City Council meeting, when, you know, the way that the Planning Commission and City Council schedules go. So I asked him when he would like this to be reviewed by the City Council. He said he wanted time to research. And so I told him that in order to, you know, properly meet the 120 days, you know, after I send the 60-day letter, we would have to review it at the first City Council meeting in August, with the buffer of if there had to be a resolution adopted by council to, you know, confirming or affirming their decision at the second August meeting, then that would be available. So it was yes, it had, decision had to be made, but there's also understanding that it's often a 2-step process, as we've done, you know, following to pass a resolution affirming a decision, affirming a denial with Planning Commission decisions. And so, since I'll be out of town on August 23rd, they're holding a workshop on August 30th. That was the date that decided it was tabled to, in order to have all 5 members there and review it again and, you know, come to some conclusive decision.
That's going to be when? September?
No, August 30th.
August 30th?
On-
Oh, at City.
City Council,
Okay.
yes. It came up, you know, they considered, well, should they remand it back to Planning Commission? And Mr. Casey, city administrator, said it was a, you know, 5-0 decision, which probably.
Probably not gonna change.
Yeah.
Yes. And so that was, I wanted to give you an update on that one, and this one is going to extra innings.
And there was no research that was brought forth that was anything new, is that right, or?
Correct. I did receive, I did mention this in the meeting, that Caleb Smith, the applicant, had reached out to Fred Weck, the zoning administrator for the city of Wyoming, and he was clarifying, I think he wanted to rebut a concern I had that this single driveway could be used for to access a, you know, subdivided land in the city of Wyoming. since that's 1 acre zoning there. And basically, you know, Mr. Wet came back saying it's a 200-foot lot width on a public road as a requirement. But then he said, you know, it's probably not, you know, something that gets you very far. That wasn't really one of the big stated reasons for denying the variance.
All right. Questions for Donovan? Karen, do you have anything for us this evening?
No updates.
Thank you. Justin?
Nothing for me.
Susan?
Nothing, sir.
At the far end, Mr. Keen?
Does anybody remember, I was on vacation, when the high school, this is a sign thing, when that was approved for those large letters. Does anybody remember what size those were?
Enormous, but I don't think I was on the commission then.
No, I don't think.
I wasn't either.
It was, yeah,
It was something in the 600 range, I think.
it'd be like
I
24.
didn't want to remember, but I did, you know, I had to dig in that file.
I was just curious, because we went tonight from 16 to 22, and if those are, 36, now we have something to compare it to.
Oh, you mean as far as, oh,
Size of each letter.
size of the, if you give me,
I would-
well,
Yeah, I was just curious
know.
what they, like I said, I was on vacation at the time, and signage
so
in
it's not
this,
your fault, is that what you're saying?
signage in this town has been a sore spot for a lot of people.
Mike, would you say you didn't take a shine to that?
When I came home, I'm not gonna say yes or no, but when I came home, I saw them.
My daughter drove up from Austin, Texas, and before she even said hello to me when she pulled in the driveway, it was, "What the is on the high school?"
That was my wife's exact reaction.
But I know we've discussed it in the past, that we're trying to get back to, let's stick by our rules that we've
Yeah.
switched and changed to. So I'm not gonna say I'm glad, but, we have to keep some sort of, conformity. And that's why these rules are put into effect. But I mean, for hard cases and stuff, yeah, that's what the CUPs are for, but not just everyday businesses, I'm gonna go get a new sign and I want it this big and that big and. All right, that's it.
I have no update except to thank you all for your service tonight and enjoy the rest of summer. We will be meeting in September. So the chair is looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
I got a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Have a good evening.